Greetings, people of the internet, and welcome to the shop. It is battery time once again. I have a stack of lithium here and a gutted Insight battery pack. Let's see if we can combine the two. Before we get started, I've got to say this video is entertainment only. This is not a guide, this is not a how-to, this is just me doing a thing. If you want to actually learn how to do this, do what I'm doing and go to linsight.org and find John Sullivan's how-to videos, the same videos that I'm watching to do this. I've already watched them once, I'm going to watch them again while actually doing this. The goal of today is to fit 3 of these lithium-ion packs out of a 2020 Honda Insight into this. There we go. My aim was off. Empty battery case. I've already stripped it out. We've got the battery case here, nothing in it. We've got the relay board. We've got things. And we're going to see how far we can get today. It is offensively cold out, so a lot of this is going to be time-lapse with Das GoPro, which hopefully works properly. I hate this camera. I hate this company. I've owned like 6 GoPros. They've all been absolute trash, starting with like the 6. Before that, they were great, but then they started drinking too much of their own Kool-Aid, and they got lazy. So hopefully that time lapses correctly. So this video is going to be a lot of time lapsing, and I'll pop in to explain things as we go along, because I'm going to have the heater running, and so you won't be able to hear anything during the time lapses anyway. The Mac's working great though. The good old $20, what is this thing? I think it's a late 2011 iMac. 27-inch. Yeah, 27-inch mid 2011. 2.7 gigahertz i5. I think that'll be a first gen i5. 12 gigs of RAM, an HD 6770 graphics card, which thankfully has not nuked itself. I think these have a problem with the graphics cards. So, I'm gonna put on some tunes to try and drown out the sound of my diesel heater, and we're gonna get going through the first few steps of this, and then I'll chime in. So, decent amount of progress. We got the grid charger on here, and what this does is it allows you to actually plug the Insight into the wall and recharge the hybrid battery if you need to. So, for example, if you had like manual control over your IMA, which is called manual IMA, you could have a more aggressive assist schedule, which will deplete your battery as you're driving, and then you get home and charge it back up like a plug-in hybrid, or if, you know, just maintenance reasons. So that is attached in place of the factory battery controller, and the wires are thusly routed. And then we did a whole bunch of stuff on the junction board here Modified these two covers to fit over the wires that are going to be put in place later. And you can see this one here. I pretty much just kind of scored it and then bent stuff until it broke, which is not ideal, but I could not find my Dremel. We also prepared this wiring harness. It used to be the voltage taps, and this was the only wire that we ended up using from there. And then on the junction board here, let's see, we ran a wire and hooked it up and took some bus bars out that we're not going to use, these guys, and kind of did all sorts of stuff. I should probably put this, look at the size of this Phillips head screw. The thing is massive. I probably ought to just loosely put that back so that I don't lose it. And then we ran a positive and negative. These are the actual power for the LIBCM unit itself. So decent amount of stuff. And then, of course, this was already modified for the 150 amp Littell fuse for the current hack, which we are going to retain for this mod because this thing gonna be fast, or at least faster. Can't really be much slower. The first of many annoyances. So I went down to my local Ace Hardware earlier today, got this hole saw. I needed two of them. I needed this guy, which is 1.25 inch, and I needed 7/8. Now, this guy was packaged like this in like a blister pack, and the pilot bit was separate. This thing was just in this little piece of shrink wrap. It was the only one like that, but it was also the only 7/8 that they had. I figured I could just swap these between this base. Turns out, no, you cannot do that. This has a different base for some asinine reason, so instead I'm going to use a step bit that only goes to 3/4 inch, because every step bit in the universe seems to top out at that. And we're going to use that to drill the holes that we need to for the next part, which is they got to pass these. I think these holes are to pass these wires through, and I think I can get away with 3/4 inch. I think that'll be fine. I might have to ream it slightly, but should get the job done. My accent came through on a bit of that. That was weird. Alright, so what I just did was actually we mounted the LIBCM control board itself, the actual battery control module, to the case by drilling some holes. The board is mounted, so now we're going to take the board off, because there's much more to be done, and we don't want the board in the way for all of it. Also, what else? We did some hole drilling, and I just kind of reamed it out with a Christmas tree bit for now, and it seemed to fit. I think that might bite me in the ass later, but we'll see. I want to get as much done as I can tonight, and I didn't want to get completely stymied by hole saws. I mean, tomorrow's Monday. I should be able to get whatever I want then. Let's see what's next. breaking out of the time lapse because this is the part where things can get spicy and actually catch on fire. We're actually plugging in these BMS adapters, or balance lead adapters. And what these do is every single wire here goes to the positive of one of the cells inside these packs, and that is what the BMS uses to keep tabs on the pack and keep it balanced and whatnot. And these are never designed to be unplugged or plugged in by humans. These were designed for assembly line only. And so I've made sure all these pins are straight, verified that. Since this is what's called a dual 18S configuration, the instructions said to remove one of these sleeves, which I have done. We also attached the, these are temperature sensors, and I kind of unsleeved the inside of this so that it would be more flexible, which is what we're supposed to do. So anyway, let's go ahead. I hope I'm explaining this right, because if I'm not, I'm going to get absolutely crucified. But okay. Being very gentle. That felt bad. No, they're all still straight. Alright. Making sure I'm perfectly straight. The click is a bit stiff there. Okay, gosh, my heart beat right now. Heck yeah! Alright, I think what's next is big beefy power cables. Love me the beef. Also, on the 12S, I attached the studs to the other end that help affix it into the main pack. So this is really starting to look like something. I'm getting excited. So at this point, we've got one pack in, the 12S, and we can see the positive cable coming through here, coming through the current sensor to, I think that's the contactor right there. All this is low voltage right now. This has not yet become high voltage. And then I ran this guy, Bay1 negative, I believe, through here, and that came up and around to the switch, and then I put the covers on. The cable routing is absolutely beautiful with all of this. Big fan. Yeah. It's all quite good. Oh yeah, and there's B2 positive hanging out there. We're about to do the high voltage DC main ground, Bay 3 ground, and some other stuff. This is getting difficult to film because I don't have enough room for like my GoPro. It's just kind of a bit wild. I'm also missing like almost all the bolts for the relay board, so I need to go figure out where on earth those got off to. I had a ton of hardware for this thing, but I spent so long not working on it that I don't know where any of my stuff's gone. So because I didn't have the right size drill bit, I get to play this super fun game of de-pinning this Anderson connector in order to pass it through holes and making sure that I absolutely do not touch any of the metal inside there, because I believe that would be problematic. And then put that right back. And now we get the real satisfying chunk. And that cable can go in there. I can put the cover back over it. Just like that. This is the big part. This is where we're actually going to mount the LIBCM to the enclosure. We've done some zip tie cable management here. Things are looking pretty. So now I need to grab the board. And this is kind of pivotal because right now is the moment where things are going to start to become high voltage. When we kiss, when we touch. I will not stop making those references. You can all bite me. So we're gonna start out here by plugging in these temperature probes. Like that? Ah, like that, okay. Okay, that's all the temperature sensors. And now our 12S connector. Okay. 12S connector is in. The middle one connects here. This bottom connector is a red herring. That's for another expansion eventually if we figure out a way to use the other 12S module. And then this guy goes over here, and this is where this becomes high voltage, and I have to cross my T's and I's. So there's a big high voltage section here. This is safe. And now I walk it in.
Now, safe places to touch. You can always touch these studs wherever you want.
Huh, that was nerve-wracking. My GoPro died, so no more time lapses for now, but you haven't missed a lot. I've plugged in all the high voltage connections here. These four on the left are for the grid charger. This one goes to the motor control module, and then these are the high voltage to the relay board, and this here is for the display, and then these are also for the grid charger, and then I put the cover on, and then we've got this cable here that goes to the LI display, and I think at this point we are ready, or sorry, this isn't LI display, this is just the debugging LCD. That's one of the beta things, and got the acrylic cover on here, and I gotta keep commenting on how nice all of this is. Like, the instructions are pretty good. He was very careful to make sure that you've got a reasonable margin when you're putting those screws in before you can potentially destroy yourself on high voltage. So if I am predicting the instructions correct, the next step is going to be flipping the switch and seeing if this lights up. There is no code loaded on the Arduino currently. The bootloader is empty or whatever. It ships in a state where you have to flash the firmware yourself, because while it's in beta, we're going to be the firmware actually expires on the beta versions here to make sure that they always have the latest version. It expires, you have to flash the newest version to keep the pack working. So, interesting little beta feature there, but this, for all intents and purposes, is pretty much a complete pack. It is so much, it's noticeably lighter than than my pack over there. I can actually lift this fairly easily, which is nice. So let me make sure that I'm correct about the instructions here, and we might actually get to fire this thing up. Alright, so yeah, I just confirmed. At this point, I'm good to turn this on. That LED should start blinking. This should refresh and turn on, and there should be some beeping. So Now that is probably the least climactic end to a successful episode in the world, but that means I didn't mess anything up. Too bad. So far, it didn't catch on fire. We didn't have a thermal event, as it's called, and it's ready for me to grab my laptop and upload firmware and then put it in the car. Unfortunately, I can't do that just yet because I am actually missing a harness. I need to acquire a new temperature harness. I'm working on that right now. I think I'm waiting for someone has one, but they got to get back from vacation. So unfortunately, we're in for another couple weeks delay on this project, but hey, that's pretty much the whole thing done. Like, there's a few tiny things I need to do in the Insight itself. There's a couple more Anderson connectors, these guys here, that need to be installed. That's the only modification that's done to the car side of the wiring harness, and then in it goes, and hopefully we're motoring with lithium power. I am super stoked, and I hope you guys are excited too. These videos aren't performing great, but this is the kind of stuff that I really like doing. I love this sort of experimental thing, and hey, I don't know of any other YouTubers that have done this. Thanks for watching.